Hi everyone, welcome back. This is Jake and Nadia, and we're going to talk today about Dear Evan
Hansen, a movie we just watched.
And this is going to be a full-out spoiler review. We figured it's been enough time since the movie has been passed.
Time. It's time for us to
also, I don't think we can, give a review of any kind without actually getting to the details of it. So this is going to be full-on spoiler warning.
What are your thoughts? I noticed it seemed like you were more positive on it than me.
Yeah, well, I would rate it 7 out of 10.
That seems like that's a very positive rating.
What is yours?
4.5?
Wow, out of 10. I wanted to rate it so high because I thought that the acting was pretty well done, especially from the guy who plays Evan Hansen. I forget the actor's name. Do you remember?
No.
I thought he portrayed the anxiety and the social anxiety, the severe social anxiety he has perfectly. So perfectly, in fact, I felt like some of my high school self was kind of coming out of him. I started to get anxiety and I started to get kind of PTSD about being in high school. It was a
cringe fest. It was a cringe fest. It was so cringy. It was so hard to watch.
I didn't really understand the hate that this movie had. So initially, I remember seeing a lot of stuff about people saying they should have casted a guy a lot younger than him. I initially agreed without watching the movie, but now I kind of understand why the casting directors chose the guy to play Evan Hansen.
Well, he played it in the musical, the original.
He did, and then there was a
also,
COVID
his dad
delay.
is the producer, I'm pretty sure.
Well, there was a COVID delay. I felt like Amy Adams' character her character was a little harder for me to feel like it was real in some of the sense. I don't know why. She seemed...
I thought Amy Adams was one of the better actors in the movie.
I thought I could understand her and I could feel like she wasn't acting some moments, but then there's some other moments where I felt like she was a little far removed.
Really? I thought she did great. Amy Adams? Yeah,
I felt maybe it's because some of the scenes were just really hard to watch when she would interrupt. But what did you think about the whole thing before we get into the summary?
I thought that it failed in a lot of ways as a musical because it didn't do anything really creative with the musical numbers, and it felt very stale and one note the entire time.
Depressing? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's depressing, but it was also just got hard to watch, cringy at the end, and awkward. Especially the second half was almost impossibly hard to watch. I had to keep myself to stop from looking at my phone because the scenes were just but also because it felt really long. It felt like the pace was really long, and I felt like the transition between the music scenes and the regular scenes weren't done very smoothly. It felt very abrupt, and I felt like they didn't do enough with the musical scenes to justify their existence. I felt like it could have just been a straight up drama and been short, and the music didn't really, to me, add much to the story because they didn't connect it to the scenes really. They were just sitting there singing while the camera lingers on their face for 3 or 4 minutes.
You said it was really hard to watch. Why was it hard to watch for you?
It just felt bland the whole time. I don't know, just the look of it was really gray and just the same. I felt like the situation was weird and interesting, and it was kind of a bizarre situation, and you're kind of some moral ambiguity there.
Yeah.
But then it just, I don't know, it was just unpleasant.
For you, it just kind of seems like it was more so towards the acting and the story kind of being overall depressing without any kind of...
I don't know. Well, here, maybe an example could be where I think that there's a discord between the form and the subject, where I know they're singing about you're not alone, at the end it's supposed to be uplifting and people are coming together and being inspired and all those scenes. I just got this overwhelming sadness and just bummed out, and it just felt like it was all hollow. It felt like sad porn. It felt like and this is kind of my issue with 13 Reasons Why. There's kind of teen shows about kids who are in high school and stuff where it's just all doom and gloom, and it's just
damn, it sucks to be a teenager.
Well, it sucks to be a teenager. We all know that. We've all been teenagers, but
I haven't been a teenager. I grew up an adult.
That's concerning. We'll talk about that afterwards. I will say I did come into this with some baggage because everyone talks about this show. I have actually seen some great video essays on this movie.
So you came with biases?
So I came with bias. Absolutely. I came in with biases. I've watched, I think, Sarah Zed's video and watched Jenny Nicholson, I think, did a video too. I can't remember. I will say, in terms of the casting, Evan Hansen, the guy who played him, in the beginning, I was I could see him as a a teenager. But then when we got to scenes where he was playing directly opposite, like
Of real teenagers?
not real teenagers, but people who looked like actual
Younger?
teenagers, like
Yeah.
younger looking people, I was like, this is kind of creepy. Like his like singing with the girl who's like his romantic interest. It doesn't feel. It feels weird. It just feels like he's old. He looks older.
I didn't get any of that. Maybe because I went to school with like people who look like they're in their 30s.
Did you go to school on like a sitcom where like everyone's in their 30s? I looked older for my age when I was in high school, but I didn't look like sickly. Like he just looked.
My
he
God.
looked like he was in his 30s, but also had been through shit. You know, like it looks like he's been divorced.
And that was, like I said, the criticism that I was seeing before I even watched the film.
Everyone's saying
is
he looked
that
old.
people were, But I thought they did really. I thought like he is. I don't know if anyone else could have played him as well as he did.
I don't know. I think they could have pulled it off if his performance were a little. All right. I don't know if this is going to sound harsh or anything. I don't know if you agree with this, but I feel like his performance was a bit too big. It was a bit too... Because he did the stage performance, and I feel like it would have worked on stage, and other people have had this criticism too, but when I was watching it now, I was thinking like, yeah, he does like a lot of like expressive acting on every line, and you know, it's just, it becomes a bit too much at some point. To me.
I didn't feel that way at all. I completely disagree. The character itself was going through so many things that I think it was just difficult to watch, period. Like someone falling down the stairs.
So to put it simply, and before we go any further, Dear Evan Hansen is a story about a kid who writes letters to himself as a form of like therapy. It's like an assignment for therapy. He meets this kid at his high school who's
Connor.
he's kind of a bully, and he like shoves him, and he takes one of Connor's letters that he wrote to himself, and he folds it, put it in his pocket.
No.
Yeah, he steals it from him.
He takes one of Evan's.
No, that's what I'm saying. Connor takes one of Evan's letters.
You said he takes one of Connor's letters.
Oh, sorry. Evan is like terrified. He's like, what if they posted it on social media? This is going to be so embarrassing. The next day, turns out Connor committed suicide. Connor's parents talk to Evan in the principal's office, and they say, hey, Connor wanted you to see this letter. It says, Dear Evan Hansen, so it must be for you. It's Evan's own letter to himself. They find so much joy in the knowledge that Connor had a friend. So Evan decides to perpetuate the lie, and it just kind of like unfolds to the level where, you know, becoming friends with their family because they want to know more about him.
He's actively lying.
He's actively lying. But the thing is, it's like a little white lie when he's like, oh yeah, we were buddies or whatever, and I knew him a little bit, and he wrote this letter to me. But it becomes really bad when he and his friend decide to forge a bunch of fake letters between him and Connor. And that's my favorite scene in the whole movie, which is like, and my favorite musical number in the whole movie was that scene where they're writing the fake letters.
And then Connor, in like this imaginary kind of scene, sings the things that Evan and his family friend are writing about Connor writing to Evan.
Yeah, it was like, I loved it. It had a lot of energy. It was a good like moment in the movie, and it kind of stood out to me as like a good scene. Evan is interested in Connor's sister, and so they start dating. However, the whole family kind of comes together, and Evan kind of becomes like a part of their family slowly. Evan does some kind of like brilliant speech at like Connor's memorial service that gets recorded and gets sent all over the world. It goes viral, and everyone's like, wow, you're such a great guy. He becomes popular in school. We kind of know where this is going. He's getting popular, but of course the popularity has to crash. We've all seen Disney Channel original movies. So the lie has to come out somehow, and what happens is that they're doing a fundraiser for the Memorial Orchard, and Evan tells the girl he's working on it with, who's a little bit suspicious, you know, he shows her one of the letters that he wrote to himself for his therapy, and she, in order to try to raise more money, posts it on social media. Very rude, even though he said not to do that. But anyways, this letter being on social media gets the Connor's family a bunch of criticism. People are like, wow, they weren't there for him. They didn't care about their son. So it's kind of tearing their family apart. And then that's when Evan finally, all this pressure, everyone's unhappy. He finally tells them the truth, that he wrote the letters. He was never friends with Connor. And they all get rightfully pissed at him and hate him and are like, "What? You perpetuated this lie for so long. We have fundraisers. We have like all this stuff. You forged these fake letters that they thought were their real dead son." You know, it's pretty horrifying. His girlfriend breaks up with him, and he's an outcast. But in order to redeem himself, starts reading some books.
He confesses online.
Oh yeah, he confesses online.
But one of the things that you forgot to say was that he tells his mom. He comes clean to his mom first and tells his mom, like, when he broke his arm, it wasn't that he slipped. He actually just almost tried to kill himself and commit suicide.
Yeah.
He goes to his room. He states it was all his fault. He lied. Don't blame the family.
He's trying to, like, repent, and trying to, like, actually get to know Connor, the real person.
Yeah, and then he reaches out to different people.
Yeah.
I thought the interesting character was Connor, even though he, like, passed away really soon, because you see different levels of him. So at first he's this bully, he's very angry and everything else, but then you see like videos of him when he went to rehab and seeing different sides of him.
It's interesting seeing the family process their grief, knowing that Connor was also like really troubled and also like very like a mean person,
but at the same time very much someone struggling.
Yeah. And his sister like did not like him at all, so for a while it seems like Evan doing like PR for Connor would like really helped revive his image after he died. Like, hey, this is kind of good. Like the family's happy again. Like everyone's happy.
Also, like I don't really blame Evan too much because he in the beginning tried to tell the mom. Like,
well, the mom really wanted him to like lie. It was like you need to give me something.
Well, that's why I was like putting myself in Evan's position. I'm like, I think I would have lied because it's almost like
I wouldn't have written letters.
No, I wouldn't have. I would have just made it a white lie because I wouldn't know how to like break this person's heart who really is trying to ensure that Connor did have one friend that he impacted while he was living.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the family dynamic a little bit of Connor's family and also of Evan's family. So Connor's family dynamic, I felt really bad for the dad because the dad was a stepdad. Their actual real dad died when they were like 1 or 2 years old. And so I really felt bad when everything came heads up, when the fake suicide note was posted online and then the mom told, you weren't even his real dad or whatever. You never really
like you didn't care about him as much because he wasn't yours.
Yeah, and you could tell how much the dad is struggling and in denial for a lot of it, but because he doesn't really know how to like express his emotions, it felt like, oh my God, this family is so dysfunctional and it's almost like Evan healed them. I don't know. It felt like they were portraying Evan as a protagonist and antagonist all at the same time towards the end.
Yeah.
And it was enticing to watch, but it was also hard to watch for the same reason.
It was very hard to watch. And one scene in particular that was hard for me to watch was, and I need to ask your opinion on this, was when Evan's mom goes to Connor's family's house.
Oh, for dinner, without like Connor even knowing about it.
Without Connor knowing about if they were going to give him money. So basically they say, hey, we can give you money so you can go to college. And Evan's mom, kind of takes offense to this because she's working hard to make sure, Evan has everything. And I get why she would be offended at this, but also she reacted very poorly and really embarrasses Evan.
Jealousy.
And like blames Evan for being like part of the, like for being close to them. She's like, you're more part of their family,
Yeah, I think it was just coming off of jealousy, and I think she's overall a really good mom, but I think that was a bad light portrayed of her, where she let her jealousy of Evan being close to someone else's family, like when they were talking about, oh, that's his favorite dinner, this is his favorite thing, and then, her being a single mom struggling all the time, and seeing her son be close to someone's family who she doesn't know anything about. I feel like at the end we see that both parents kind of did their best.
How did you feel about the music, the musical numbers? How do you think the musical numbers played next to very serious dramatic moments? And did it work as a musical?
I think it did. But at first I was a little shocked because
there was no like scene transition, like there's no dancing. One thing that I thought was weird.
There was dancing in that one scene that you were
one scene, the one scene I liked.
Yeah.
But I mean, like when Evan is singing and stuff, he's just singing and everyone is walking around like normal. And I could kind of get that them doing that for a little bit, but for every scene, everyone is in a total state of like normalcy while one person is just like out and doing something wild. They're singing, it's breaking the realism, which is what musicals do great, but when you're trying to make it super grounded, it's difficult. I think there's always a problem with that. I think musicals should, for the most part, have some kind of like stylistic thing that makes it feel like the music and the drama can kind of cohere. For example, it reminded me of like Les Mis, where most of the musical scenes are just people's faces.
I felt like that's actually a really good point. I felt like the fact that when they sing, especially Evan Hansen, when he sings, at the same time he's trying to portray these real emotions or like his social anxiety, it kind of broke in and out for me.
Yeah.
And it made it where I was connected and I was disconnected all at the same time.
Right, yeah.
And it made it kind of a confusing experience that felt like, maybe that's why it was a little bit more cringe-worthy than I wanted it to be.
Yes.
Because I wasn't totally connected. At the same time, I wasn't totally disconnected.
Yeah.
So it was this weird place.
But me too. I was feeling things as well, but it was also like you notice the artifice more when it's the rest of the movie is trying to be very realistic, serious drama. The lighting is extremely gloomy and just like drab, and it looks kind of ugly, honestly. When they start singing, the artifice is so revealed, and everything just feels fake. And it feels like weird. Whereas in most musicals, you're watching a musical the whole time, even when the scenes aren't musical numbers. Like you get a sense that it's still a musical. Whereas this, it's just like every time they started singing, it's like, oh yeah, musical time. Like and then when the musical numbers come on, I go, okay, we just have to wait to get through the song because you know that like once the song is over, we can get back to the story. So I was getting constantly more bored, especially when I realized they weren't going to do anything really interesting with the musical numbers besides people standing in a room, walking around each other in a circle sometimes.
Or sometimes just staring.
Or just staring. It'd be okay if a couple of numbers were like that, but every single one was just them standing, sitting, staring, looking at each other, singing. All right, let's just get the musical number over with. I want to see what the rest of the story is. And it just started to drag on, especially the second half. I was like, all right, let's finish this. We were pausing the movie going like, is it almost over?
Well, because we were trying to see when the revelation of what Evan really did was going to be portrayed. But also, it was a really long film. I felt like they could have condensed it.
It was a little over 2 hours, actually.
I felt like it felt much longer than that. I felt like a lot of parts they could have condensed. For example, maybe they could have condensed it felt like a lot longer at the same time than what it was, but it's weird for me to say that because I don't know what part they could have condensed. I know this is supposed to be a serious film and I completely am fine with that, but I wish there was some way that they could have made it less cringy or less uncomfortable in some sense. But I don't know if that's more of a criticism of the movie or more criticism of myself watching the movie.
What if instead of just them sitting in a room during the musical numbers, there was more artifice or like magical, like imagined things? Like when the characters are singing, there's just like musical numbers, there's like scene transitions and like backgrounds, like colorful backgrounds, and then it would like separate it from the drama and kind of give this idea of like, well, kids kind of live in this heightened reality, teenagers are this very like dramatic, and like that's kind of what kids are living in. When kids are like imagining their lives as a movie, they're not picturing it like this, they're picturing it like something creative.
At least we didn't, I guess, when we were kids.
No, I didn't.
It just felt really weird with just the family, the mom, dad, and sister just staring
They're just
at
sitting
him,
there doing
and then
nothing,
him just kind of being in his imagination, his own world, and them kind of acting like he's actually talking to them when he's really just thinking out loud. Or singing out loud rather. It felt very disconnected for me.
I think that this is a movie that would have benefited from a different director and production idea behind it. I think they went with the wrong type of concept by just trying to keep it super real and grounded.
At the same time, I liked the film.
There were parts, I will say it was not as bad as I expected. There were parts that I liked about it. It wasn't all, bad. Let's talk a little bit about the romance between Evan and his sister, which was started...
His sister. Let's do it.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the romance between Evan and Connor's sister, which to me started out very sweet, although I didn't really believe it because next to her, Evan looks like an aged dinosaur, just like a man who lives alone in his house. Putting that aside, realism aside, even though I was trying to go for realism, it felt cute at first, but then it really quickly got weird.
Yeah, at the same time, I also you could tell that the Connor sister liked Evan.
She really did, genuinely.
Probably even before he came over. And everything, it's almost like they were watching each other. Although I felt like it would have been better to kind of show her side of why she liked Evan for who he was before the lie. Mm-hmm. Then it just kind of seems like she's saying that she likes him, but there's no evidence of why she really likes him other than like giving her the stories that she needed to heal. It would be great if they showed her actually liking him, or maybe listening to him in the class or something else like that, so that you can see like mutual likeness. And I think that would have even portrayed a bigger devastation at the end when Connor's sister says, I wish we met right now instead of, meeting and then having Evan say all this lies and then ruining their relationship, basically. Well, so overall, I recommend it. Jake doesn't.
You recommend it?
I do recommend it.
Oh, okay.
I do recommend it. I thought, like I said, the acting was good, and I just think that maybe it was too real, or maybe it wasn't real enough. You decide and let us know in the comments below.
Yeah, let us know what you think went wrong with it. I'm actually surprised it was better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, other than that, give your recommendations below. Let us know your thoughts, and we will see you next week.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.